Thank you so much for letting me come and visit during third period. So it looks like you've been making some progress toward your goal that we've been working on.
Yeah. Yep.
So how do you feel that the closure piece of that lesson went, since we've been working on identifying closure?
Well, I kind of felt like the conversation stopped when we got to closure. Like the kids, like they didn't have anything to share all of a sudden. And I was frustrated.
So you had time planned for closure, and you when you got up there, you just felt like it stopped and it was all on your shoulders, and
Like the kids just lost focus. They weren't engaged. They were ready to be done. They just didn't participate.
so if you had to envision what a perfect closure would have gone like, what would that have looked like and sounded like for it to be perfect?
I guess if it was a perfect closure, kids would be thinking, and I'd see kids thinking and wanting to share and wanting to share about what other people shared, and I would think that we would like bring together some big ideas and really summarize and add some depth to their learning, and that didn't happen at all.
So it seemed like you wanted kids to share, and you were just standing there, and nobody was willing to share. So you would want them to be engaged in the conversation, is what you described.
Yes.
So when you think about the lesson, when you were circulating, what did you see them having conversation around that you thought would be worthwhile sharing?
Well, I kind of thought, what I wanted to bring out in closure was that comparison of the linear functions and the proportional relationships and how they were connected. I wanted that to come out, and as they were talking, some groups were seeing that. They were talking about, well, the proportional situations would go through 0, 0. They were making those comments where I knew they were understanding the big picture, or why it wouldn't be proportional.
So you had identified what you wanted your goal to be in closure, and you had seen some of that, but then you just weren't able to have them share it. What are some strategies you might use to have conversation happen during the closure, as opposed to just say, who would like to come up and share? What else might you try to get more conversation and thinking happen?
Well, as you asked me about like what was going on, what did I see in my classroom, I really noticed that one team in the back that was they had like a kind of a picture of the graph, and they talked about like on my graph this one is linear, but this one is when it became proportional, and it was that same situation where it became proportional when there wasn't that additional step to it. And I really like that summary that they came up with. So I'm thinking I should have had them share.
So you could have said, okay, this was our goal, identify that group as you're walking around, and ask them to make sure they came out and shared that. Was there some other thinking or strategies that you might have wanted to bring out as well?
Well, I guess there were some teams that, there was a team in particular that they had kind of defined pretty much that proportional and linear were the same thing. So I guess I would have liked to push them a little bit more and get people to, other teams to kind of challenge their thinking, because I wasn't able to really to question them to really get them past that point. And so I guess I would have wanted them to not, I feel like they walked away still believing that all linear relationships are proportional.
So rather than planting that seed of doubt for them to think about,
Right.
you could have perhaps had a conversation and closure around that. So it sounds like when you think about your lesson tomorrow, you can think about that idea of closure. What math do you want to come out? And then as you're walking around, is there a way that you could use that to help you plan before you start your lesson?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing the lesson again this afternoon, so I'm thinking I'm gonna like look for kids who are struggling to make sense of that big idea, and maybe get them to share some of their thinking, and maybe see if some other groups will add on to that thinking or challenge that thinking and share theirs, and see if we can kind of create like a class argument almost about defining what is a proportional situation.
I wish I was going to be able to be there, but I'm going to give you a task. Think really carefully at the end of the closure and just take 1 minute and do a 1 minute write when class is over to capture some of your thoughts about how it went, how it didn't go, and we'll use that kind of as a launching for our next conversation when we think about the next time we'll plan for our lesson.
All right,
All
sounds
right,
good.
sounds great.
Thanks.
All right, and email me, let me know how it goes.
Okay.
All right, thanks Tracy.